Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl, your migration agent. Now today I would like to share a bit more insight to the business investment visa, where it has a criteria named eligible investments. Now this is more related to 188B visa, which is under the investor stream, where commonly know that an investor wish to come to Australia and migrate, that they usually do it through a government bond. It's usually a state government bond, whether it's New South Wales, Victoria or Queensland or Western Australia, South Australia, and goes on. But what does it require for a person, a migrant, to actually meet that investment criteria which they needed for their background informations? Now today I will take you into the actual policy and procedures inside where immigration officer actually use it as a bible for them to actually assess a visa application. So let's go in there. Now this is what we usually use, and a lot of migration agents and lawyers does subscribe to this Legend.com as well. I'm just looking into whether I could I think I make it now. That's better. So basically the content is right below me, so you can see right there. Okay, so today I've highlighted them, eligible investments. So we need to go through one by one, and then you will have more knowledge before, and also allows you to plan ahead how you can migrate to Australia via investment into a government bond. Now government bond usually requires at least $1.5 million injected right before the grant of visa, and then the visa will granted for you to go for the next four and a half years in order for you to transfer into a permanent residency. But that's not today's topic. If you do want to know more about it, comment below. I'll have another video for you. So let's have a read. So eligible investment is defined under in 188.112 and 113. The three eligible investment required under the investor's stream. So that's as well as it. So basically 188.243 and 245 basically says that you need to have at least 3 years of experience in direct involvement in managing one or more qualifying business or eligible investment. So this is actually the act, the law from the act, and then we will interpret it, and we will also see how the policy implementations require for the immigration officer to actually assess your investment background. And at the 188.245 requires the applicant or the spouse or de facto partner to have a net asset of at least Australian dollar 2.25 million. These net assets may include but not limited to eligible investment assets. So the asset can include your investment assets, but they can also include the qualifying business, because there will be a net business asset to be included as well. But anyway, we are today talking about just on the topic of eligible investments. Now you need to be maintain direct involvement. That's pretty obvious. What does that mean? It means the investment has to be decision has to be made by you, signed by you, and you need to show that the investment options are actually picked, decided by you through comparisons. For instance, if you go to stock, you don't just bluntly go in there and buy stuff. You will see which one is good, why you prefer that, the risk profile, blah blah blah. But the reason they pick that issue with direct involvement is that some people do use they do prefer a lot of work from a financial advisor. Now if your investment portfolio is showing predominantly being picked or choose by the investment advisor, then we'll have some issue there by showing how you can maintain direct involvement in managing your investments. Okay, so that's another issue there. So we need to show that the eligible investment being at least 1.5 mil, and then the ownership. So by regulation definition, it must be owned eligible investment. That's pretty obvious. You can't take someone else's. But the only issue that they have this topic here is basically to say that some people do partly own because of either with a spouse or with a family, as a member of family. Okay, you may have a very large lump sum which is family owned under family trust or whatever the trust, or a parent company has another subsidiary, blah blah blah, and you need to show that as long as it's partly owned, you need to provide evidence of how you own it and how much you own it. Okay, so that's what it actually meant here. Now, the purpose of investment, so it can't be something bluntly just for investment. It has to be showing that your investment does have that intention and the purpose to make a return, to make a capital appreciation, to make a way of income, as you can see, right here. Okay, return may take a form, but not limited. So interest, royalty, dividends, rental, and as well as capital appreciation. So, interesting questions. Now, a lot of people do own properties, real estate properties. Now, if you rent it out, make sure that every income that you rent it out is declared with your government, whatever the destination or country that you're in. Because I do meet people who has privately has a private deal. It's all cash. Now that cannot be utilized. So even if you have 5 properties all rented out but all received in a way of cash, undeclared, then that cannot be counted. Okay, so that's very, very important. Okay, now if you do have an investment profile where you buy and sell properties, then obviously you need to demonstrate with a lot of buy and sell contracts, and it has to be in English. If it's not in English, you're required to have a NATI translated version with English in order to demonstrate that the capital appreciation here. Okay, now obviously we only calculate net value. So if there is any borrowing or loan against whatever the asset that you have, we need to deduct that out. We need to subtract those loans and mortgage out. Okay, so that's basically what that means. Now, evidence of ownership, there's an eligible and value of eligible investment. So you may demonstrate eligible investment can be a loan to a business, but personally I have not seen this because it's considered to be a very, very risky situation. But it's more likely to be in a invested into a venture capital or startup funds, but then that goes into a fund management procedure rather than a loan business. So it's more private. So for example, ABC company is looking to expand, and I provide a loan to that business for I don't know, 500,000 with the possible 5% interest rate, but that has to be all documented with the contract. So but I personally haven't seen it can be done. Whether or not this and the definition of eligible business can or will be updated in the future, because as a new future or existing future, we do have a lot of different other investment instruments, for example cryptocurrencies or different type of other online investments. Now I haven't seen loan to business for the past decades with my practice. So anyway, it's still there, but if you do have it, you can utilize it by means. Now cash on deposit, that's pretty easy. Now a key here is that it does not require to demonstrate that the account is actually a saving, a check, or a term deposit. As long as it makes interest, it can be used. Now, key point here. Now, if the account only made little or no interest, that cannot be included. And those kind of accounts are generally the daily use accounts. Okay, so daily use account cannot be used as an investment. It can be an asset, but not an investment. So again, that's where you need to differentiate the two different kind of account. Now, some people do use saving account for daily usage. Some people, but obviously, term deposit you don't use it for. You can't use it. It's locked. Okay, so term deposit is more straightforward, but if you do have an account, for example, in Australia, a lot of people do have a daily account and then they have a substitute saving account, online saving account. If you put that money into the online saving account, that's considered as an investment, although the interest rate nowadays is not that high anyway. So again, I foresee that this criteria will be updated fairly soon, as it doesn't really match on to current investment structures of what we have nowadays. And now stocks and bonds, that's pretty simple. So if you buy stocks and bond, government bond, and that can be all counted, and surely these kind of investments are documented everywhere. Now the only thing that you need to ensure that is that when you're buying these stocks and bonds, it's actually coming from yourself, not from again, even if you have a financial advisor, which is a good thing to do and to have, ensure that you go through the selection and comparison criteria, or having those documentations ready, so we can submit it to the immigration to show that it is still under your own direct involvement and making your own decision. Okay, managed fund, and that's as what I have mentioned. It's more if you go into startup funds and VC venture capital funds, so it's all counted. So these funds can also include stock and bonds as well. Demonstrate information decision invest are not relying. See, again, you can use. They're not saying that you cannot use financial advisor, but you need to show that you do not solely rely on them, okay, in making the decisions. Now, real estate, key here, residential is more important here, because commercial, industrial, well, basically you lease them out, and residential, your own residential address cannot be counted. Okay, so that's your own primary residence, cannot be counted as an investment. It can be counted as your assets, but not investment. So we need to get that clear as well, because a lot of people come to me and say, look, I've got 2 houses and properties now. I live in one, and the other one I allow my parents to be in there, no rent. Well, wow, good, that's your assets, but it's not an investment unless you can demonstrate that the household that you have, you continually buying, selling with a lot of buy and sell contracts. Okay, but if it's gonna be your primary residence, I doubt, and I have not seen anyone actually do that. They relocate and move their home within the past 10 years. Now, gold and silver, again, you need to purchase them from the dealer, as long as there's a documentation included that can be counted. Now, superannuation, now that generally cannot be used as an investment, because you cannot touch, you cannot make a decision on what you will need to invest into, but there is a self-managed superannuation scheme, which is self-managed, obviously, so that's your direct involvement and maintenance, and also control as well. However, this kind of scheme is not available in a lot of different countries, so unless the location that you're in and your country does allow self-managed superannuation scheme, then obviously you need to have a documentation to prove this. Now, management of eligible investment, that basically is what I have been explained. So that direct involvement in management. Now, key here that we need to look at is success is not relevant. So under the eligible investment requirements, some people do a lot of bond and stocks and things. Now you may lose money there. Oh, that's pretty obvious, and so that's why the success is not relevant. However, your asset is still required to meet that threshold as well. That's $2.25 million. Okay, so you may lose a lot of money, but you still have a lot of assets. That's fine. Okay, you have a lot of money to play with. 3 years experience that we have gone through that pretty previously. So we will discuss about qualifying. Business is pretty easy to demonstrate as long as the company or business is owned by you. You have that direct shares and holding that, and obviously you manage and responsible for all the tax declaration. It's pretty easy to demonstrate, but it's the investment part is the harder one. So 3 year experience in managing eligible investment. So criterion says similarly to separate criteria managing investment, but documentation or applicant provide need not to be as detailed. Okay, so it doesn't have to be that detailed, but you at least need to show that you have that direct investment there. So we always recommend applicant to provide their resume and their investment portfolio, or tell us about themselves. Maybe describe, write it down by themselves is the best way, because they know through how to nail that whatever they have done and invested before. It's easier that way. Statement of managing activities for 1 year of the past 5. Okay, so that's basically a very quick review and summary and detail explain of what eligible investments actually define under the law, and also how the immigration officer assessed each and single criteria to the finance point. Now, although it does say that it won't go, we don't need to do so detailed, but under the recent anti-money laundering law and the CIS common reporting systems, I do experience that the immigration department, the officer are highly trained to actually pinch into detailed information. So make sure that all these required documentations are prepared and well prepared and ready to forward to the immigration. Okay, and that's our video today. If you do have any other questions, feel free to comment below. And finally, we would like to ask you to consider subscribe to our channel, and also tick that little bell button on the side, so when we have the next video out with the news, you'll be the first one to receive them. Thank you very much for viewing the video. Bye.